I'm set.
There is one player who certainly has put in the effort this season. I think Orange, amongst all others, is the poster child for the exact kind of attitude that you're calling for, of, you know, taking their job very seriously, putting in the effort, treating it like they are a professional. And Orange is now currently facing down relegation. And I apologize straight up if that is doing Swidz a disservice. I do not know Swidz as well as I do Orange. I don't know what his work rate and what his attitude and what his practice schedule looks like. But the reason I'm talking about Orange right now is that he finds himself with relegation on the line with his fate out of his hands. It is in the hands of one of his best friends in hunterace, but Swidz is his direct rival for that relegation spot, and this is a very simple win or lose equation between the two of them. If Swidz wins, he is safe. If Swidz loses, he is relegated.
And so we take a look at the picks and bans. Priest protected on both sides. Swidz has had his Warrior banned away, and for hunterace, the Shaman has been banned away in the set. So Holy Wrath Paladin, Combo Priest, and Quest Druid on hunterace's side. Quest Druid, Combo Priest, and Quest Shaman now on Swidz' side. And so that's what I really want to focus and hone in on here is Swidz' battle for this one, because this is his time and that's what it's about.
Yep.
So you set it up, simple equation. Win or you're done. That's it. All of Grandmasters for him is boiled down now to a one-match outcome. And last time he faced hunterace, he beat him.
And the very, very good news for him in terms of how the lineups as a whole line up against each other is that Swidz, alongside Viper, took a big risk this week in bringing this very, very aggressive anti-Paladin lineup and strategy and tech cards. Archmage Vargoth Swidz has in his Druid deck alongside 2 Ferocious Howls, so he can gain enormous amounts of armor and get out of range of those Holy Wrath combos. He's even further down that rabbit hole in the Warrior deck than Viper was earlier, where he has the Archmage Vargoth, but he hasn't cut out any weapons projects to make it get it in there. He's also playing a single copy of Eternium Rover in there as well, which Viper was, much to your chagrin, playing 0 of. So he has nigh on infinite armor gain in his Warrior deck as long as he can draw a few of those key cards. We have still seen Warrior lose that matchup even when all those armor gain cards are available, but we haven't seen it quite with Archmage Vargoth in there as the extra kicker. So going into this, the suspicion, because of the way the format is broken down, is that hunterace might be in a spot where he's forced not to queue his Paladin. And if that's the case, that's manipulable by the opponent, where they can say, well, if he's never going to play Paladin, I can arrange the rest of my queue order around that and potentially get some favorable matchups for myself.
With Druid and with Shaman as his other two, I look at his Shaman deck, and there's one major curiosity that stands out to me in the 5-drop slot, if you want to take a look down there.
Oh, he's playing Sephorium Bomber again.
Well, there's a matchup where it happens to be fairly good if hunterace cannot queue his Paladin.
It's good if he can't queue his Paladin?
If he cannot queue his Paladin, it happens to be quite good against Druid, in my experience.
Really? Okay.
It just adds up to a lot of damage.
Sure.
Like the game plan is largely offset it, which sometimes you fail to do. You're not always able to check everything Druid's going to do. But if you get to a scenario where you are back and forth with it, the C4 bombers honestly just become battle cry, deal 10 damage effectively, because the Druid's going to get through almost its entire deck.
In the light's name.
It's a weird spot, and I'm curious about it. Swidz has taken a lot of risks where deck building is concerned. And with his Grandmaster's life on the line, he's chosen Vargoth and Druid, Vargoth and Warrior, and Sephorium Bomber and Shaman.
Just trying to find an edge over those Holy Wrath Paladin players. Playing up against hunterace, who has brought it almost every week, I believe. It might not be a bad call. But that's all in the future. Right now, we have a Priest Mirror. hunterace was going first. I didn't actually get a chance to take a good look at the mulligans this time around, unfortunately, but the scenario we've ended up in is both of them have reasonable starts. Swidz having coin options to contest this, hunterace having 1-drop plus buff going first, just missing the inner fire. The inner fire on Swidz' side might just end up being the big deal here.
I think this is going to be a big Light Warden.
I think so too. It's going to be big in one of two ways, depending on whether or not this Power Word Shield Draws hunterace and inner fire.
What's the merit to playing shield and cleric?
Not sure how much there is because you're already punishing the heal on the injured Tolvir by having the Light Warden in play. I don't know if you need to necessarily double punish it then with the card draw as well.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Shield the sidekick?
Must be. It's the only reason you do it in that order.
That's the only reason. Whoa.
Just doesn't want anything in play that the Tolvir can trade into. Wants to be able to... Oh, also, okay, this is really important. To have a minion that he can attack with and then heal on the following turn so the Light Warden gets buffed.
As soon as you said, hang on, I was I spotted it at the exact same time.
Must consider.
Man, I don't think that situation's ever come up for me, actually.
It's possible it did and you just missed it. That's a world too.
That's possible.
Yeah.
I don't recall too many...
Quickly.
On your secret priest practice account?
It's a secret priest practice account, yeah. I don't want people to know it's me. I'm embarrassed.
It's so funny to me.
There's nothing wrong with it. I just dislike it, all right? It's like... There was an American sitcom that was called Melrose
hang
Place.
on, which is okay. I saw the coloring. I didn't know whether it was the divine or the inner. I just saw the coloring come off the top.
There was this American sitcom called Melrose Place, which nobody would ever admit that they watched, but there were so many people that watched it.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, I watched it, all right? I did. I play priest, okay? It's on a secret account, just like how I watched it. I would shut myself in my room, and I would turn down the volume so that no one else could hear it. That's just what it feels like to me. I enjoy it.
His secret priest account, by the way, is called That's Chadmirable.
Feeling like that's getting a divine spirit. Could be very, very, very wrong.
It's a really, really scary spot for hunterace to be in here. And this is why, like I talked about on the previous turn, how I didn't think hunterace needed to double punish the heal. Swidz did choose to double punish the heal and I actually think was right to do so because the heal was so bad for him, he had to double punish it with the Cleric and the Light Warden. These Priest early games are just so hard to pilot perfectly.
I'm just seeing too many different things right now. I'm becoming overwhelmed.
It's entirely possible I would have thrown this game twice already up to this point.
All right, so your goals this turn are check opposing Northshire Cleric.
Must consider.
Secondary goal, don't be weak to Light Warden. That's a difficult task. And so if you're going to do those two things, my instinct was injured Tolvir and sacrifice your Light Warden. But you're very interested in keeping your Light Warden around, so how do you get to that point if it's possible? That tells me you would leave the Northshire there because you have your own, so it's a symmetrical effect. So the options sound to me like keep the symmetrical effect or sacrifice your Light Warden. And I think with extra arms and your own Northshire to 0, that this sounds more appealing.
Extra arms pick up now for hunterace is exciting. But yeah, there were so many plays for Swidz there. Like he could have just extra arms and value traded the Light Warden, value traded the Cleric into hunterace's Light Warden. And then left him, he would have left his Light Warden dead on board to the 1/4 Beaming Psychic on the other side, but his Cleric would be alive to board. This protects his Cleric a little bit better from buffs on the other side, inner fire buffs and extra arms buffs on the other side. But I think you're pretty happy that your opponent does not have inner fire in his left 3 cards at least, based on the way that hunterace played the early game.
Important to note silence copies. because that's playing into hunterace's mind. There's 2 copies of silence on Swidz' side. That's big. I feel like the first big trades are important, but I feel like the first board clear is also pretty high up there in priority.
For sure. hunterace does have a modicum of hope, though, if this game just drags out a few more turns, because he's the one currently sat on the Bomb Samdi. He has drawn 3 of his 1-drops already. Single Light Warden, single Northshire, single Beaming Psychic. So it's not the most explosive, but it will certainly win the resource battle for him as long as he can take care of this Northshire Cleric in a timely fashion. So he's probably looking at needing a silence or a big answer to this Cleric, and then try and extend the game to this Bonsandi.
That sounds to me like he needs a draw.
Yep.
And I don't even know what that draw is right now. Silence, I guess.
Silence Psychopomp this turn. Big Acolyte.
You know that there's more arms in hand.
Make him play it.
I don't know if that's good. Like, Psychopomp provides a reborn minion and it still forces the same play. Swidz has to occupy mana to keep the Northshire alive.
The end.
I think this has higher upside.
Hey, I got you, friend.
That's not one of them. Oh boy. Swidz is looking to take a big lead on this turn.
I just wonder how often you win this game without drawing the silence. Which is what's making me lean towards Acolyte of Pain. The thinking here, of course, he has more arms in hand. He's looking to get away to land that. But quite often, even if it does land, it's not enough power to contest this Northshire Cleric once the turn is dealt with. There is multiple scenarios where that is the case.
I must consider.
I think Swidz is a bit concerned about the Pyro and the more arms for opposing Pyro play. I'm not sure what the fear here would be or what the draw consideration would be.
Quickly.
This would have flown out of my hands so fast, but it's not my Grandmaster line.
I'm personally slightly confused as to why this wasn't just a Nephicet Ritualist turn from Swidz' side.
I want to kill the board.
I can definitely see that philosophy, yes.
I think clearing the board is just so, like, overwhelmingly important in this matchup. Like, especially when you have a priority minion in play.
Especially when you know your opponent has more arms as well. Again, the Nephicet Ritualist does reduce the effect of that somewhat, but Swidz might just be putting together a read that hunterace's left side of the hand are a big collection of buff spells, which they mostly are. It's just that there isn't the payoff card right now. There's no Inner Fire, there's no Topsy-Turvy to go with it.
Could be circles as well.
Could be circles, true.
Wansomdi always comes to mind for me.
In the light's name.
He's fighting as hard as he can, but I just don't think it's going to work this game. It's a 3-1 Swidz has to give up, though.
Yeah, it's the 7x that he's worried about, though. hunterace just needs that off the board so that his Bonsandi can potentially do something the turn it comes down. It's just never going to happen. I guess sometimes it was going to happen. The fact that it was a Light Warden specifically actually did make that value trade a little bit awkward to happen some of the time. Just the Beaming Sidekick made life very exciting.
Would you heal that one? He's specifically playing to draw a spell. Oh my gosh. It makes sense, actually.
Yeah, if he drew 0 mana spell there, it was insane, right? The amount of heals that go off.
No, that's good. And that's not. He's just trying to visualize a way that he wins this game.
Trying to do very much the same thing.
Yeah.
Struggling to do so.
In my head, it's live through the turn and draw a wild Pyromancer.
I must consider.
Bonsamdi now only draws 2 for Hunterace. Cleric and the Sidekick.
One of those is a Cleric.
Quickly.
Sorry, you're right. Bonsamdi only draws 13 cards for Hunterace.
Whew. He's fighting so aggressively. All right, so this would now prompt Swidz, if he wants to keep the Northshire Cleric around, to sacrifice 2 minions in play or sacrifice the Northshire Cleric. And I think with his own Bonsamdi, it's an easy choice.
Agreed.
Swidz got the first clear, he got the second clear, he's going to get the third clear. That's what happens when you take the first one.
He's going to get the first win, more than likely, and the 6th win for his season, which could be the most important one, meaning that he gets to do it all again next season.
Not a Pyro.
Not a Pyro.
And it needed to be a massive Pyro pop-off.
It needed to be a perfect Pyro pop-off, Admirable. Massive would not have done it.
Consider.
Even then, I think Swidz would have had to have traded incorrectly to even make that an out. Like, I think he would have had to have sacrificed the Cleric and left the 2 smaller minions on the board for that to even be a relevant factor.
Just doesn't even draw a card.
I must consider. Quickly.
Is someone injured? Hey, I got you, friend.
One off lethal.
I was going to say, I have a feeling the second Cleric might come into play this turn, and then Hunterace is going to bolt upright in his seat. But it looks like Swidz is going to avoid the trap.
I've got more left in me.
It was so tempting to double Cleric there to look to end the game. But yeah, Swidz,
you know.
Swidz does not take the bait. No. It was absolutely bait.
I must consider. Quickly.
Swidz is going through every single motion going, is there any way that I lose this if I do something wrong?
The light's name.
As long as you don't play that card second from the left in your hand, the answer to that, I think, is no. Even with, like, nonsense Pyros here, Hunterace still has both circles available, right? So double circle here could draw, what, realistically, at most, 3, 6, 8 plus 3 minions?
You have
You can see it. I mean, Hunterace playing to pure possibilities the entire time. Like, when you're playing to possibilities, those are some of your hardest games. A, you're going to win them infrequently. B, it's a chain of events that has to happen in order to get to that point. That's very difficult to do. So for this one, you know, being in Swidz's position, it simplifies it for him. find the most efficient ways to clear the board again and again and again to make that outcome for hunterace just harder and harder and harder. That's exactly what he did.
Since we were talking about it kind of abstract at the end there, one of the dangers in the late game of a Priest Mirror like that is just dying to fatigue from Northshire Cleric accidents. Which in a board state like that, which was already huge, say, for example, hunterace could have his own cleric in play and go like Pyromancer, Power Word Shield, rip a circle back to back, for example. You can draw your opponent 20 cards off one Northshire Cleric in that scenario some of the time with a board that big. With the mistake we're talking about playing the second Northshire Cleric in the Priest Mirror, that's when suddenly it becomes possible for the opposing Priest to fatigue you from just out of nowhere where you didn't think it was possible. So Swidz did well to avoid like the only real small percentage loss condition he had there. The big board was there, but the Clerics were dead from hunterace's side. So that big Cleric, Pyro, circle chain of events can't happen because the circles don't draw cards for hunterace as well.
Yeah, it was the Acolyte in hand that would have been the kicker to that Wild Pyro. Just don't play the second cleric is what it boils down to.
Yep.
And make sure you kill all their
And even then, like sometimes, like just limit the size of the board a little bit as well, because then that can cut into their outs to be able to come back against you as well.
Yeah. Either way, Swidz picking up a game 1 win in a Priest Mirror match, took the stranglehold and never lost sight of it. So we got to go to a quick break, and when we come back, it's hunterace versus Swidz, game number 2. Swidz fighting for his life, only has one more game left to live. He has to win, or his Grandmasters comes to an end. Stay tuned.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The scales of justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Get these, Harry!
Not to worry, Finley. We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonily timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there. A fish.
No! It's the scales of justice!
Oh. Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
My name is Casper. My alias is hunterace. My username actually goes way, way back. I didn't actually come up with it myself. My father is like somewhat of a gamer and he had like his own gaming stuff. So what I did was I just stole one of his tags and used it for myself.
So hunterace is really your dad?
Well, not anymore. Right now I reached like my ultimate goal for this year. We happened to win the World Championship and that was like the biggest thing, so I'm like still extremely happy about that. I think that the Grandmaster program provides an exciting opportunity to be able to play like high competition Hearthstone every week. Only competing against the EU players to start with is going to be a very difficult job and it's going to be super hard to be like one of the standout performers and then qualify to the global finals. I would have to stay at my best to be able to qualify.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. We are in the final day of the regular season. Superlative Sunday is what I've called it, Subtle.
Did you forget what it was for a second there?
Yes, of course. That's why I glanced. Because I was like, I can't remember the S word I used to describe it because it was so ultra generic.
Yes.
But it means that we have a 6th bonus match that's in play. Right now, we're amidst hunterace versus Swidz, where Swidz boasts a 1-0 lead, but is fighting for his Grandmaster's life. Last time he fought hunterace, he defeated him, and now just one more game to go, where if he wins, he's still in Grandmasters, and if he does not, the iron price.
It's very fitting that it's that first win over hunterace that puts him in a position to have the powerful tiebreakers at the bottom of the division against the other players. That is putting him in a spot where now if he beats hunterace again and matches the win record of those other players, it's that tiebreaker advantage that's going to push him into safety. The victim on the other side of that, of course, will be Orange, who is going to be the one that's pulled down into the mire in that case. But Swidz has the advantage, I guess you would say here. It's hard to call it an advantage because you're playing against the world champion, probably the best player in the world. But he is the guy who has it in his own hands, which I think you have to prefer that position, right? You would rather be Swidz here and get to play it out and just win a series of Hearthstone for your safety than Orange, who I would say just is watching at home. Who knows if he even is, whether he can face watching this or whether he's just hiding under blankets somewhere, just hoping it all goes away.
I just find it quite ironic that beating hunterace is the very thing that gave Swidz the tiebreaker score necessary, but that beating hunterace is the very thing you must do in order for that tiebreaker score to now matter.
Yep.
That is funny to me.
Yep.
Priest versus Druid is what we have. Swidz, the Innervate opening hand.
The beaming sidekick in a fire opening hand from hunterace, though.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that part.
That's why I did.
Okay.
Teamwork. T for teamwork.
No early removal. This coin Tolvier is going to be tough.
hunterace shakes his head at the Innervate.
Oh boy, did he draw a Ritualist? Oh my.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Admirable.
Wrath picked up.
Oh!
Wrath it. Wrath it. I'm upset that you're thinking. Wrath it.
Do not ever be upset that someone is thinking with this much on the line, Admirable. If the turn ends and this Wrath is not cast, then you may be upset.
It's worrying me.
I wonder.
Crucial decision for Swidz' Grandmaster survival here.
That draw could have changed everything.
That draw still might. The Psycho Pomp continues to give hunterace some hope here. He's definitely behind in this position now. Innervate on turn 1, speeding up the quest. And then the Wrath on turn 2, which, yes, slowed the quest down again. But you would do that regardless. So he is still technically a turn ahead of where he would be on the quest without that Innervate.
How relevant is that, though? That's going to be the question.
Still needs the draw to pay that off. That's not it.
That's the worst draw in the deck. Now, granted, I think there are a number of copies that fit into that slot right now, including Cenarius. At least the Enlightened.
No attack here, the most likely, from Swidz. You can see how much it means to hunterace. Like, this functionally means nothing for his season, but it means everything to a very, very good friend of his.
Hey!
Oh my gosh! Hunterace back-to-back huge draws. That's 2 turns away, which means 14 damage pouring in from the 7/7 alone.
Whew.
Yeah, this is... When the Priest draws buff and Interfire, it is so hard for Druid.
When the Priest draws Armet, it's so hard for Druid. hunterace has now found both.
When the Priest, it's so hard for Druid.
Very good, yes. We have solved it.
The queue up of Druid here for Swidz is meant to make sure that hunterace just does not squeak by a paladin. Yeah, just take the percentage loss and make sure that you have the matchup you expect.
And there is 1 minion and 1 minion alone in this Armet right now. And it's the injured Tolvir.
I'll assume you mean the Psychopomp.
What did I say? Oh, sorry, I said it in the Armet, right? Yeah, in the Psychopomp that's coming down to be buffed by the Armet.
There's a circle and there's an inner fire. Like, imagine Swidz getting out of this.
I'm trying. I'm struggling. As long as hunterace plays his cards here, looks like we are going to a game 3.
Yeah, I think Swidz's face is telling you that as well, where it's like, okay, this is, you expect this. Keep your wits about you.
No. Down to 2. 2-7 Taunt Reborn. 3-7 in play.
As Sottle said, the customary priest wins are now out of the way.
Yep.
I concede.
1-1. But right before the heavy hitters started to come out there, I was making the point that you can see how much it meant to hunterace. He was frustrated that he didn't have the absolute nuts in his opening hand. He was frustrated when he saw the Innovate on turn 1. He was frustrated when he saw the Wrath on turn 2. And then he calmed down when the additional buffs and the Armet and the Psychopomp appeared. You know, he is very much playing for a friend here. I talked about how Swidz has it all in his own hands, and that's the luxury position. But Orange is having to rely on a good friend of him to essentially play by proxy for him in the case of hunterace, who has already secured first place in the division.
So now, hunterace, Druid, Quest Druid remaining, Holy Wrath Paladin on Swidz's side, Quest Druid of his own with a tech for Paladin, and Shaman with, I would guess what I would technically call a tech for Paladin,
yeah.
with Sephorian Bomber. I feel like he should absolutely expect a Druid queue up out of hunterace, and so as a result, pick whichever one is stronger.
Yeah, I don't know how much of an impact Archmage Vargoth has on the Druid mirror. Certainly haven't tested that one myself. You said that you thought Sephorian Bomber was okay against Druid as well as a tech?
The first week that he brought this, I played it a bit on ladder just to kind of get a feel of what it cost me in other matchups. And it was honestly, like, surprisingly okay.
Okay.
Like, I assumed it would have been abysmal in, like, you know, every non-slow matchup, but it just wasn't the case. Like, I found myself, like, going even on board a lot of times and then just, you know, having Sephorian Bomber. Now, the problem with it is when you had Sephorian Bombers and you had former champ in your hand and you got bogged down. That was really the issue.
I haven't looked yet. I know it's on the screen, but I just want to say, like, there's 1 Sandstorm on 1 Mind Control tech in Swidz's Shaman, which to me leads me to a Druid queue, expecting my opponent to play Druid. Looks up, Druid mirror. Okay, yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, the thing about it is, like, it's just not very good. Like, it's not bad, but it's not good, and I think that's the best way to describe it.
The bomber you're still talking about?
Yeah, the Sephorian Bomber. It is pretty specifically Warrior Paladin tech.
Okay. So it all comes down to this, for the fate of relegation in this division between Swidz and Orange. A must-win game for Swidz.
It's a pretty good start. Talking about some of the differences in the lineup for Swidz, we mentioned that Archmage Vargoth. It is very stock throughout with Cenarius and King Ferris as his top end. On hunterace's side, he continues to bring the slew of one-ofs. 1 Power of the Wild, 1 Ferocious Howl, 1 Mind Control tech with the same top end that Swidz has. And so the debate that I've always had is how much extra leverage does that Power of the Wild give you? And I think in this specific matchup, it's quite a bit. You know, just the idea that you can Oasis Surger and Power of the Wild to counteract opposing ones is a major deal. The fact that, coupled with that, and those running over like a Nubasath Defender's post-Nourish means that you're not vulnerable to a Lodi swipe instantaneously. It needs to be Starfall in that instance. But a Nourish and a Paris and Arius early on, it tends to go to the long haul.
Nothing for hunterace. He's going to have to consider playing a 3-2 Panther here to contest a Crystal Merchant on the other side. Does so. So it's going to take 9 from this Panther.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times your first hidden oasis is just you use it for a 6/6.
That's fair. I think a lot of the time he takes 9 if he doesn't hero power it down over a couple of turns anyway.
That as well. Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Behold, jewels of the
Just going to play it into the 3/1.
I think with the Nourish in hand, yeah.
Sure.
First serve goes to Swidz, and he's got Nourish lined up. Now he does go to 8 cards, 7 cards, 10 cards with the Nourish. That's the, order of hand operations when you play it. So he would need to get rid of a card in that instance.
Well, he's not casting it next turn, right? So he can place.
Oh my goodness! I just assumed he was on 6 mana for some reason.
He just plays stuff next turn to make room for the Nourish on the following turn. So we might just see like
that's just set loading.
Stealth Loti or whatever. Yeah.
Or Innervate. I like Innervate.
Oh, that's the best draw in the deck.
That is super good.
Yeah. Swidz seems to...
It's kind of like the, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seems to approve of that draw.
hunterace assumes the position. Oh my gosh. There are few things that 3 Cenarius will not defeat.
4 Cenarius?
Where's the 4th one?
I'm saying that's a thing that 3 Cenarius wouldn't defeat.
Oh. A retort, I see.
Yeah.
Lodi swipe, easy.
Power takes metal.
Job's done.
hunterace is just not... I don't know what to say about it. It's kind of like... It's not humorous, but it is funny, if that makes sense. Just the look on his face every time he's in these positions. Yep.
Just finds himself a long way behind in this position. His opponents had the Crystal Merchant, his opponents had the Nourish. He's had neither of those luxuries. And now this Cenarius chain.
Oh boy.
This is going to be incredibly difficult to fight through.
What tool dares defy this ancient?
Job's done.
Suppose the Lodi. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about that too. hunterace does play the copy of Mind Control Tech in his deck, though,
yeah, we
which
saw that yesterday.
This came up yesterday, where he just didn't want the Loti to be in stealth. So if it was stolen away, like, yeah, sure, it does its damage, but then it's off the board from the trade, and even if it's left there, like, it's not in stealth, so you can still respond to it on the other side.
That makes sense.
I would also still present the counter-argument that you have 3 Cenarius in your hand, so continuing to play around Mind Control Tech for the rest of the game is going to start getting very difficult very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's the nod to it, though, right? It's the hedge.
Yeah.
Like, do I need the Lodi? I have 3 Cenarius.
Right. Yeah. And, like, from this point onwards, you're going to blow so far past what a Mind Control Tech can do that, like, this was the one turn where it really hurt.
Yeah. This board tension's not exactly comfortable for Swidz either. Like, hunterace seeing the swipe go down. It's not a strong starfall position. Curious how in the lead Swidz feels in this spot.
What to do?
Tell you how in the lead he should feel.
Yeah, but that's just never how a Druid matchup feels, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's a balance of that aggression and lack thereof. Now, 3 Cenarius would certainly change my mind, but it's not hard to convince me to get aggressive. Imagine that the game decided whether or not you competed in Grandmasters. Then how would you feel about your spot? Not so certain anymore.
I would feel somewhat like hunterace looks right now.
Yeah, because that's kind of how it is. Yeah, you see hunterace nodding at the trade, but I can promise you from Swidz's position, you are seeing colossal disasters if you do not.
What are those disasters specifically?
Mind Control Tech, Innervate, Lodi, Starfall.
That's a lot of things you just said.
You might lose the game if that happens, though. Like, you can actually lose the game to that outcome if you don't take that trade. And so, here's the thing. I still would not have taken the trade because that's a lot of things that have to happen. But, again, put yourself in a position where one final game decides if you compete in Season 3 or you do not. You will avoid disaster. That is a human function to avoid that disaster. And that's why pressure means a lot in these situations. It's because it changes the way that some people will play the game.
The disaster is losing the game. So the argument of avoiding disaster being a human function, like, I buy it in that you can get mental tricks played on you, but that's kind of what being a top-level Hearthstone player is about, right? Like, you have to understand that sometimes the immediate disaster in front of you isn't the biggest disaster. The biggest disaster is like, well, I just missed a bunch of damage, and now my opponent who hasn't had a nourish potentially has some time to find their nourish and get back into the game. As it stands, Cenarius number 3. Swidz is feeling, or looking at least, certainly not feeling, but looking very, very comfortable with the amount of gas that he has to keep on pushing here.
He's got all the top end.
Yep.
Our power is in our...
Mediocre outcome from the Feoris rolls.
You're hunting down Starfall. Right after you use your swipe, right after you use your Starfall, Lodi shows up.
Yep.
What to do?
I don't know what the best deal is.
Engaging TC-130 until dislocated.
Probably not that.
Certainly not that.
hunterace is insanely behind. It might be unrecoverable from this position.
It's certainly reaching that moment, yeah. Cenarius landing on this board is, what, 9, 14, 16, 21, 23, plus 12, 35?
Well, there's a couple things to be said about the fact that you're not getting the extra minions out of it. So there is still AoE potential if that's the direction you go.
Yeah, which is why, like, it's why I counted it. If it was lethal, it was lethal. You don't care about the extra minions if your opponent explodes.
Yeah. It's tough to make the Druid explode.
It is.
It's usually... I mean, look what hunterace has fought through already. Like, it's chains of damage that tend to come in.
Yep.
That swipe looks massive to me as well.
I wonder.
hunterace has 1 Starfall remaining, 1 swipe remaining. A Zephyrus draw that would not be active at this point, because certainly at least he has 2 Nourish remaining in his deck, as has been part of the problem.
What to do? Time waits for no one.
See Scenarios number 3 come down.
Some things just don't beat.
Job done.
Swidz leans back.
Still nothing. hunterace feeling helpless. In some ways, he has been in this series. Person who's not been helpless, though, the guy who's had his fate in his hands the entire time, is the Frenchman Swidz. And it looks like in a Druid mirror, he has got himself over the line. I think he's finally starting to feel it. He has looked nervous, he's looked anxious this entire time, but now the jacket comes off, the smile spreads across the face. Swidz is chilling. I think he knows he's done it.
I mean, what would fight against you? It would have been something massive that probably happens already.
Yeah. There's just a random 15-card active Zephyrus there. The hands go up for Swidz. He has got himself over the line by the finest of margins. Survival in his own hands, as I said, but he had the ultimate challenge in front of him. He had to defeat hunterace. Not only because he needed the win, but also because of his early defeat of hunterace, also improving his tiebreakers to the point where they are superior to oranges. And that win now means that the Frenchman will be in Grandmasters next season. And with Valkyne currently leading the way for European prize earnings, we could be seeing a French invasion coming through.
Honestly, it's like it couldn't be done a more telling way for Swidz either, where he defeated hunterace early on. To start this chain of wins that started coming back for him as well. He had an abysmal start to the season. And then right when he beat hunterace, that's when wins started getting picked up for him. So now in the final match, at the final game, the final mattering moment, does it again, defeats the world champion and defends his spot.
I think there is not a lot that we can add. I think the man himself, he might have some words for us. Swidz, you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi. So no big question, just talk about how you feel right now.
I feel super good. No more stress. The season is finished. Yeah. Whew. It was hard. And yeah, so I win. So I won. So yeah, so Orange will be relegated. So it's a bit sad because I like him, but and if I lose, it was me. So yeah, sad for him. But, yeah.
How tough is it to play a match knowing that losing means that your Grandmasters ends, but winning also means the same for a friend of yours?
Yeah, but yeah, I need to win, and yeah, I'm super proud of me. Yeah, I'm proud of me. I feel good, and I want to say thanks to all my practice partner, all my teammates, Maverick, Yog, Galax, and also some French players like Zim. Blaze and Falcon. Not Falcon, Disdemon. But yeah, Falcon, I will practice with him in the future.
In the Druid mirror, was there any point before the end where you felt comfortable? Because you had a very good hand, you were ahead, but like, did you feel you were winning during the game?
Yeah, I had. It was perfect because I had innervate nourish, so I had so I just out tempo him, and I had 3 scenarios and one. It was yeah, it was super hard for him to clean my board without Loti. Yeah.
How do you feel about your season overall? Some of your best points and some of your worst points of it.
Worst point, it was the beginning, because I didn't practice a lot, and I was punished for that, because I don't bring the best list, and yeah, and I did more mistake, because it's super hard to have the perfect game every game. Yeah. And the good point was, yeah, I win hunterace twice, so I'm the first. And yeah, just win was the best thing for me. And, yeah.
All right, well, Swidz, you got Bucharest to look forward to. You said you have yourself a Grandmaster Season 3 spot, and well earned after this series. So congratulations on that, and we'll see you in Season 3.
Thanks.